الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا حبيبنا محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا. أما بعد، قال الله تبارك وتعالى: قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran that if you truly love Allah, Prophet ﷺ said, then follow me. فاتبعوني يحببكم الله. And then Allah will love you. ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم, and He will forgive your sins. My brothers and sisters, what's happening in France is very alarming for all of us, but more alarming for people who live in France. It is a great tragedy that the French government, French society, French institutions have decided to take a very hostile approach to their Muslim minorities who live in their country. In Europe, France probably has the largest Muslim population, nearly 10 million. Majority of them are North African in descent. Moroccan, Tunisian, Algerian, and many other African countries, Senegal, and many other countries that France was responsible for the colonial past. Today in France, and for the last 100 years or so, Muslims in France have been treated like second-class citizens, discriminated, disempowered, marginalized, vilified, and constantly mocked. What happened in France over the last few weeks? 2 weeks ago, when Samuel Paty, the teacher in the school, who was murdered for showing cartoons, to what happened in Nice, killing of 3 people, and any other persons who have been killed. Of course, it is wrong to kill anyone. To take a life, it is like taking the lives of the entire humanity. Prophet of Allah ﷺ was mocked left, right, and center was alive in Mecca and Medina. He did not order his companions to kill people in return. So those who have perpetrated the killing, it is not an Islamic crime, nor is it a crime of the entire Muslim world, 1.8 billion Muslims who live in the world. It is not a crime committed by the Muslim world or Muslims all over the world. It is crime committed by individuals, whatever their motivations were. A crime that we must condemn, and of course we condemn. The saddest part, my brothers and sisters, at the same time as these murders have taken place in France, in Eiffel Tower, only a few days ago, 2 sisters were knifed. There was no report of that incident. A couple of days ago, a person and his throat was slit open. Again, no report of that incident. It seems in France, Muslims are easy targets, and French government can do anything it wants without any recourse and without any accountability. Brothers and sisters, this has nothing to do with freedom of speech. Allah says in the Quran, وَهَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلِ إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. We have shown you the path, you can accept it or you can reject it. Allah has given you and I the freedom to accept His path or reject His path. In the Quran, Allah says, La ikraha fid din, there is no compulsion in religion. Freedom in Islam is inherent. We are free, born free. We are free to think, we are free to express. Of course we are free to express. But you know, brothers and sisters, nobody enjoys absolute freedom in any society or any part of the world. I would like to jump the traffic light, but I can't. I don't have that freedom. I'd like to say anything I want, but I can't, because I need to be sensible and sensitive to other people. I cannot criticize a person because of their race, because I'll be termed racist, and of course I should not be racist. I cannot criticize black people for being black. I can't criticize brown people for being brown. I can't criticize Bangladeshis for being Bangladeshis or Pakistanis for being Pakistanis. I can't. I'll be termed a racist. I cannot, in France, even criticize or desecrate the French flag. A few years ago, somebody desecrated the French flag and made a mockery of French flag by making it a toilet tissue. French government enacted a law to say desecrating French flag is illegal. What happened to freedom of speech? When Tayyip Erdogan recently criticized French government and said the French president needs his head checked, mental problem probably, French government took offense. He was offended by such a statement and he took the ambassador out. He said the ambassador needs to come because he was recalling the French ambassador in Istanbul. Why? Because the French government was offended. So there is nothing called true freedom. If on one hand, you can't criticize French flag, you can't criticize French secularity, you can't criticize French government or French president, but French government and French people can criticize, mock and publish cartoons of our beloved Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam left, right and center. What kind of freedom is this? What kind of hypocrisy is this? Brothers and sisters, this is wrong. Wrong in every sense of the word. By the way, let's not get ourselves completely mixed up. This attack on the Muslims by the French government has nothing to do with the concept of freedom of speech. Nothing whatsoever. It's everything to do with current President Macron's failure to run his country properly, economic misery, coronavirus is destroying the country, immigration issues, racism in the country. Did you know in France, Muslim communities constitute 5 to 7% of the total population. And yet, more than 70% of prison population are Muslims. This is an astonishing figure. Endemic racism in France. The government is racist against the Muslims. Government is Islamophobic against the Muslims. And the government is using freedom of expression as a pretext to attack the Muslims left, right, and center. The teacher who brought the cartoon in the school and showed the cartoon to the kids, actually, he did not just show the cartoon. The cartoons that he chose were pornographic cartoons. And he was showing them to 13-year-old kids in school. And he was telling the Muslim kids, if you don't like what I'm going to say, tell me you're Muslim and leave. That's what he said. Identify yourself first and then leave. All kids left except one. One girl decided to stay, and after the program she was so distraught she complained. Because she was shown pornographic cartoons of beloved Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We love and revere our Prophet of Allah more than we love ourselves. And if you're going to show cartoons because you have no brain to be sensible to the Muslim community's sensitivities, perhaps you could turn a blind eye. But to show a pornographic cartoon to 13-year-old kids is not only uncivilized, but is barbaric and animalistic. It is beyond acceptability or civilized behavior. Mr. Patel, of course you should not have been murdered for that. Of course your life is sacred. But French government is telling you and I a lie. It was not a cartoon. It was a pornographic cartoon of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam shown in a classroom. Would French government be happy to have their own president depicted in classrooms in a pornographic cartoons? No, it would be offensive. You know, France is giving us lectures about civilization and freedom. Have they forgotten their own history? Have they forgotten what they did to the Algerians? How they massacred millions of Algerians. Any Algerian who protested against French occupation, do you know what they did to them? They tied them to the back of the cars and they drove them across the street until their body parts were torn apart by the rocks and the debris on the streets, and various body parts were found scattered all over because they opposed French occupation. And France, Mr. Macron, you're teaching me about civilization, you're teaching me about freedom of speech. You should go and study your own history. It's disgraceful, disgraceful. What they did to the Moroccans, what they did to the Algerians, what they did to the people of Mali, what they did to the people of Senegal, what they did to the whole of Africa is beyond description. And France is teaching you and me freedom of expression. Shame on you, Mr. Macron. Shame on French people. It's called ignorance, it's called arrogance, it's called stupidity, it's called foolishness. I believe in freedom of speech, of course I do. I've always spoken freely. I'm speaking freely right in front of you. Freedom of speech comes with responsibility. I cannot swear at you, because swearing at you is no longer freedom. It's me being abusive towards you. Entire French society has decided to be abusive towards Muslim society in France. Why is that acceptable? Why is it acceptable that entire French society is abusive towards Muslims, discriminatory towards Muslims, and deriding and mocking Muslims? Why is it acceptable? It isn't acceptable. Brothers and sisters, I tell you, the only way forward is to accept one another, respect each other, build relationship, and have a relationship of equals. If you treat the French Muslims as your minority and as unequal and give them second-class citizens, what do you expect in return? You know, years and years of ghettoization. If you want me to tell you how freedom of expression doesn't truly exist in France, I'll give you another example. I was invited by the French Catholic Church to go and speak at a conference in France many years ago. This was when Tony Blair converted from Anglican Church to Catholic Church. He was just after he had left the office. So I wrote an article for the Guardian newspaper in which I said, if Tony Blair wanted to truly convert, he should have become Muslim. Why become Christian to Christian? You've not really converted. It was an article written as part of my freedom of speech. French Catholic Church found it offensive. They uninvited me as their guest speaker. They wrote to me saying, we're uninviting you because you've offended us. France, you can't have double standard. On one hand, you cannot attack the Republic of France because it is against their constitution. On one hand, you cannot criticize their flag because it is against the sensitivities of French people. You cannot attack the French culture and their sensitivities because it is offensive to them. But on the other hand, it's okay to attack the Muslims. How is that acceptable? It is hypocrisy at its worst, and it is one of the most atrocious examples of what's happening in our modern world today. Brothers and sisters, secularism is one thing, but France is demonstrating extreme secularism. I call it secular fundamentalist country, a country that is hell-bent on forcing everybody to become secular. That is not secularism. That is called secular fundamentalism. What is the difference between France's version of secular fundamentalism and the ISIS or Daesh of the Middle East? No difference. Same mentality, same attitude, same approach. You cannot tolerate the other, and you only accept your own version, my way or the highway. Brothers and sisters, we as Muslims have a problem with ourselves. We have a problem in ourselves. Did you know in France, 51 charities have been investigated, and some of them have been dissolved. 72 schools, madrasas, and Muslim-owned businesses have been shut down already this year, and more to follow. They do not tolerate any organizations that support people's right to defending themselves in the courts. So we need to unite together and be powerful. As community of Muslims, we need to be united and powerful. Our message must be clear. We're not calling for violence. No, I'm not acceptable in Islam. Completely un-Islamic to call for violence against anybody. We're calling for freedom for everybody. We're calling for equality for everybody. We're asking France to treat the Muslims of France equally like every other French citizen. Let the Muslims be free. Let the Muslims be free in France. And if you do, there'll be calm and peace everywhere. If you treat your minorities badly, of course there's going to be a repercussion. And we don't want that ever in any society. May Allah protect us. May Allah forgive us. And may Allah unite us in our hearts. And may Allah enable us to do the right thing to protect the rights of minorities all over the world. And wa akhir da'wana and alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Things that we can do very quickly. Unite. Write to our MPs, our leaders, our community activists. Write to the media. Present a sane, rational, logical version of Islam to everybody. Don't be emotional about it. Don't scream and shout at people because it doesn't work. Don't threaten people. Yes, Prophet ﷺ was attacked. But Allah is enough to protect the honor of the Prophet ﷺ. Have this faith. Allah is enough to protect the honor of Muhammad ﷺ. The whole world can dishonor the Prophet. They can try. But will they be able to take 1 ounce of Prophet's honor? Never. Prophet's honor will always remain. Billions of people will love the Prophet of Allah ﷺ more than they love themselves. So they can say what they like. We should not be emotional about it. But we should be intelligent about it. Our response is, you are discriminating the Muslims of France. That's our message. Stop it now. Create equality between all people in France. Stop it now. And Mr. Macron, you were trying to cover up your failure. It's not going to work. You're failed as a president, accept you're a failed president. Nothing but a failed leader. Accept it. And in the election coming up, if you're wondering that you're going to get the right votes, well, I've got bad news for you. I've got bad news for you. You may get elected, but you will have no respect in the world whatsoever. You will be dishonored. I'd like to call upon all of us to remain vigilant, keep our eyes open, stay rational, stay sound, never ever become extreme, use rationale, use reasons, and present the true case of Islam to the world. And make dua for the French people that Allah forgives all of us for our failure. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Akramul Akramin. Help our brothers and sisters in France, Ya Allah. Help our brothers and sisters in France, Ya Allah. Help our brothers and sisters in France, Ya Allah. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, open up the hearts of French people and enable them to understand Islam, Ya Allah. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, give them hidayah, Ya Allah. Give them your guidance, Ya Allah. يا أرحم الراحمين يا أكرم الأكرمين. You are مقلب القلوب يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. You can turn any heart you like, Ya Allah. Turn the hearts of French people to your deen, Ya Allah. Protect our brothers and sisters in France, Ya Allah. Protect our brothers and sisters in all parts of the world, Ya Allah. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروني ولا تكفرون والله يعلم ما تصنعون. أقم الصلاة.